This episode of Real Estate Real World is brought to you by LionDesk CRM. Discover why so many people have already made the brilliant decision to switch to LionDesk. With over 100 integrations and video, email, and texting, LionDesk isn't just a CRM. It's everything you'll ever need in a great follow-up system. Learn why thousands of real estate professionals have already made the switch by visiting them today at liondesk.com. Use the code REALWORLD and get 50% off your first 2 months. No credit card is even needed to get started today.
Welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we talk to the movers, shakers, and leaders that are getting it done right now in the real estate industry and beyond. Your host is Marguerite Crespillo, and she started this podcast simply to talk to cool people about what's really happening in this crazy roller coaster ride of real estate. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and stay up to date on the newest stuff by adding yourself to the list at www.realestaterealworld.com. Now your host, Marguerite Crespillo.
Welcome, everybody. This is Marguerite Crespillo, and I am so excited for this very special edition today of Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to all the amazing people, not only that are in the real estate industry, but that are not in the real estate industry, because there are so many amazing people that are doing such great things out there that inspire me every day, and I love to be inspired more than anything and read great stuff. So a while back, I had the rare opportunity to actually do a podcast with Bob Berg, who wrote The Go-Giver, along with John David Mann. And I was so surprised that he agreed to do a podcast with me. I was excited, and he introduced me to John David Mann, who is also just equally as incredible, who recently introduced me to our guest today, Chef Charles Carroll. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
And they wrote a book called The Recipe, which is not out yet. It is in pre-order, but I got to get a little sneak peek of the book, which I was thrilled about, and I'm almost completely through the book, and I just loved it. So before we dive into that, let me read a little bit about our great guest today. So The Recipe by Olympic gold medalist Chef Charles Carroll and New York Times bestselling author John David Mann is a tale of heartbreak and redemption, a meditation on great food, love great food, and secrets of the kitchen, and a life manual, all wrapped together into one compelling, unput-downable story, which is true. George Foreman, former world heavyweight champion, calls it an instant classic. Robin Sharma, bestselling author of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari and The Leader Who Had No Title, calls it a little story about big ideas, adding, read it and be transformed by its simple, noble truths. My guest today is the book's co-author, Chef Charles Carroll. I have not had enough coffee this morning. Executive chef of the River Oaks Country Club in Houston, Texas. Chef Carroll has a unique perspective on success, greatness, and what it takes to create amazing teams. He took his first culinary Olympics gold medal, the first of many, at age 24, and has participated in 8 different Olympics over 3 decades. As executive chef at one of the highest-rated country clubs in the nation, he manages and mentors a team of 25 in 6 kitchens and 3 restaurants, putting out 80 to 100 banquet functions per week. Wow, that's insane. And maintains an incredible sense of family spirit and team morale in the process. He travels the country giving inspirational talks to young people on the ingredients of greatness. He just returned from logging 250,000 miles in his 2-year stint as president of the World Association of Chefs Societies. And in his spare time, he's written a book, A Culinary Parable, he calls it, with the Go-Giver author John David Mann. How does he do it? And more importantly, why does he do it? We're going to find out today. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, so the pleasure's all mine. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So I'm actually enjoying your office there and seeing your medals and your pictures and all the stuff behind you. in your office. And so I'm curious, above all your medals back there, there's like a bunch of things hanging. Are those from like events you've been to? Can you see those?
Oh, on the very top?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are well, as world chef president, I did a lot of traveling, and a lot of those are industry shows and congresses and conventions and so on. So many times I would be the guest of those events. So those are some of the credentials from those events. World Chefs is 105 countries and 10 million chefs. It's a big organization.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into that position, and so for 2 years, so it was quite a ride.
Wow. And so tell me this, like, how did you originally get interested in food? Like, was this from day? Well, we all love food. I mean, and we especially love great food. But what drove your interest to even start out in this arena?
Well, it's funny. The recipe is a lot of my food memories.
Wow.
It's called, it's in a town called Mapletown. Well, the dinette. My dad owned a dinette called the Mapletown Dinette. But John and I kind of twisted that and made it Mapletown is where the scene is taking place. So I grew up in New England, and my dad was a chef, my brothers were a chef, and so I grew up sitting on bags of flour, watching my dad cook donuts and in the dinette. So that's where a lot of those memories come from. And then I grew up in a country inn, so you're working 8 days a week doing the chores, and I was cooking breakfast for the guests, and when I was in third grade, so I had a pretty early start.
I would guess so. Wow. That is a very young start. And so what took you, so I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know there was a Culinary Olympics.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm fascinated by it now.
Yeah, you're not the only one. Unfortunately, the United States does a poor job of covering it. It's just like the Sports Olympics that happens every 4 years, and it's held in Germany, and it's actually the same year as the Sports Olympics. So, and then during those 3 years leading up to the World Culinary Olympics, there's several trials, a lot of different international shows in Switzerland and Singapore and Norway and all over Luxembourg. Wow. So what's awesome is I had an opportunity to represent the United States, and to represent the United States in anything is pretty cool. So
right, it's a big deal.
Just to stand on stage and receive gold medals for your country, and it's very intensive. It's you can relate it to just like the Sports Olympics, because you're working. The only difference is you have to have a real paying job. You don't have sponsors. So, you work a 60, 70, 80-hour week for the property, and then you turn around and work another 20 or 30 for the Olympic training, and then you fly once or twice a month, every month for about 3 years, going to different properties for training sessions.
So what inspired you to even try out for that?
Well, my dad was a culinary instructor in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, in St. Johnsbury Academy, and which also is small, tidbits in the book, the recipes. So that's actually a true part in the book. And so my dad was a culinary instructor there, and one of the videos he showed us in the class, and I took the cooking class, obviously, was an Olympic video. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, my God, I want to do that. And then I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and some of the people that were in those videos were in the hallways, and they were the teachers. And so I chased them around like a rodeo, like a groupie, and tugged at them and begged them to volunteer for anything I could. And I just got it in my blood, and since then I've been a member of 8 different teams. So
that's incredible. I mean, I think about, as I was reading this book and thinking about a lot of the different things, there's a little quote. This was my favorite quote, and I'm going to read it here real quick. It says, "Let me tell you a secret. What inspires me most every day isn't what I already know how to do. A lot of people settle for that, but you can't become your best that way. Being impressed with what you already know won't get you to greatness, not even in the ballpark. what inspires me most is what I don't know, what I can't do yet. There's not a lot of juice in being good. You know where there's a lot of juice? Finding ways to get better. That's been my favorite quote, and I highlighted it, and I printed it out, and I set it down on the book, because I think so many of us, you know, we just do the basics sometimes, and sometimes that's what you have to do just to survive, right? And then you look at something like the Olympics, and you're like, that's where the incredible, like, not many people are willing to take that step.
Yeah, I love that you picked that quote, because that's a real quote that I use. I have 2 other books as well: Leadership Lessons from a Chef, Finding Time to Be Great, and also another book called Tasting Success, Your Guide to Becoming a Chef. And I think that quote actually came from one of those books. But that's absolutely what inspires me every day is what I don't know. I mean, that's what makes me jump out of bed in the morning. And as a chef, you have to be that way. I mean, there may be a few out there that wouldn't admit that, but I mean, I will never know everything that there is to know about cooking, never. And so that's what has to inspire you. And also as a chef, as a leader, as a manager, you need to be searching all the time of those things that you don't know to get better and to be able to lead your team.
You know, it's so true, because that relates to everything other than chef. Yeah. Cooking is even in the real estate industry. I mean, I've been 23 years in the real estate industry, so you would think I would know it all.
Right.
But I'm surprised on a daily basis, and things pop up, and situations change, and life changes so much, So my nephew is a gentleman named Julian Perigo Jimenez, and he has worked he's a pastry chef. Okay. And he has worked for some of the big, Caesars and all of those, and he was on Cake Wars and a number of other things. And he recently, just a few months ago, opened a patisserie here in our market. And I just saw him last night at the Lady Gaga concert, which was fantastic.
Oh, wow.
She was fantastic. And I was asking him, how's his place going? And he's in that fine line between things are going so great that he really should expand, but he doesn't want to expand because that's going to mean more work. And he goes, I thought I knew a lot, and I'm learning how much I don't know. And so it was so funny that just last night we had that conversation, knowing that I was going to talk to you today. But it's just so true. You don't know. And that, I love what you say, that's what gets you up in the morning, to go figure it out. Like, that's the exciting part, right? Go figuring things out that you don't know.
Sure, absolutely, and there's a funny saying, I think, or at least it's in my head. I don't know which one, but when you're first starting out and you're a young person in your early 20s, you knew everything, and the older you got, the more you knew. You found out how much you didn't know, so I think when we get older, we get a little wiser. But another quick story on the Culinary Olympics. You got to see some of the amazing work that's in the World Culinary Olympics. I mean, the food, it looks like glass. It's so amazingly gorgeous for so many different reasons, the way the food is displayed and everything. And I remember going to practice sessions and displaying our food and say, wow, that looks super good. I'm happy with it. This is where, and I would say that maybe, 2 or 3 months ago. But that was never good enough. And I would look at it and think, I'm really happy with that. I think we'll put that one on the shelf, and that's the one we're going to take to the Olympics. But then 3 months later, you realize how foolish you were, and you just brought it fivefold better. So I mean, we always have to keep our head open to those kind of things.
You know what I love too about great food and the people who prepare it and put it together is how important the details are. Yeah. Right? It's the little tiny things that when it comes to sense of smell, when it comes to sense of the vision of it and what it looks like, and it's to me, I'm just so fascinated by how important those details are. And I think that is the difference between good and great, is paying attention to those details.
Absolutely, and we have guiding principles, and again, this is what a lot of the book is about. I mean, the book isn't my life; It isn't my life story. It's not a true story based on my life, but it's about a lot of things that I know and a lot of things I've experienced or seen, like the dinette. And we have one of our guiding principles is improve everything you touch. And you have to have that mindset because, we're so busy. You mentioned we do 80 to 100 parties a week. It's so easy to get in a routine. Okay, peel it, chop it, put in a pot, cook it, pour it out, serve it, type of thing. And if you don't stop and smell and taste everything, and then you're just pushing food out. You're not cooking at all. You're not a chef at all. So you have to slow down. You have to slow down and enjoy those senses and care and care about where stuff comes from. Our younger generation, they'll be out here peeling carrots and chopping off the ends and throw them in the garbage, and there's 2 or 3 inches left on that carrot, that just went in the garbage that we should be using for stock or something. And if they were the farmer that put that seed in the ground and nurtured it and watered it and fertilized it and watched it grow and carefully picked it and cleaned it, they wouldn't be throwing that in the trash like that. They would treat that carrot with a lot of respect. And so that's the passion. That's the part we try to teach here as well.
And I'm telling you, you have to read this book when it comes out because there's a whole section where you talk about that with the young man that you're mentoring in the book, not you.
Right. Owen,
the
yeah.
Chef.
Yeah, the chef.
And he goes through that talking about cutting up the carrots, right? And then he throws all the carrots aside.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell it because I want you guys to read the book because it's so good. But so one of the questions we have here is you've done everything at the Olympics, right? From taking gold as a competitor to coaching gold teams to judging. And I think that this, again, applies to the real estate industry and applies really to everything we do in life. Is it, what does it take to go all the way? I mean, to obtain a gold medal is like,
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And there's so much that goes into that. So in building that team even, what does it take to build that team?
Well, that's a really great question. But, I mean, I think discipline and heart. You have to have it has to be in your heart, and you have to enjoy and anything in life, like what we're doing now, your podcast, and I'm looking to start a podcast, next month. And my God, I saw all the videos and stuff on TV. I mean, on the YouTube and everything. It seems so simple. It's not simple.
No, it's a lot of work.
There's nothing easy about it, and you have to have the will. You have to have the heart. You have to love what you're doing, and I don't want to be cliche that, if you love what you do, you'll never have a bad day or you never work a day in your life, but it's true. And you have to have that passion in your heart, and then you have to be dedicated. You have to push. And I, getting away from the book a little bit, but I've been chasing things all my life, and I got 5 or 6 projects I'm working on right now, and on top of this beautiful club that I'm at. And I, if I could say one thing that would stick in everybody's heart today, I would say, find that thing that makes you jump out of bed in the morning. Find that thing that you want to go chase. You got to find something in your heart that you just want to makes you jump out of bed in the morning, because there's nothing better than can't wait to get up and go get it. And so chase that dream and go after it. And we're chasing 4 or 5 now, and I'm blessed to have 1 book out, let alone 3, and now I'm writing one with John Mann. I mean, that's a dream in itself. John's an amazing guy, and this book, we think it's a national bestseller. I mean, it's a brilliant, beautiful book. We have movie interest in it right now, and so we're just keep dreaming and chewing. One of my favorite sayings is chewing off the end of the table to do whatever it takes to be successful, and I mean that's the ride I'm on. I'm just loving it right now.
And, I have to say, to me, it's such an honor to have you on the show. And when you say, just to write 1 book is a big deal, well, I'm in the process of writing my book. And it's such a process, right?
Oh,
like it's such a process. And I laugh when you said that, because years ago I got the opportunity to meet Malcolm Gladwell, and who's, an incredible author. And I was standing in line to have my book signed by him, and he was, talking about a few things. And I go, so have you only written 1 book? And because in my mind I'm thinking I want to buy every book the guy has, right? And he goes, well, by most standards, that's quite an accomplishment. I was so embarrassed, I was mortified because that's not at all what I meant, when I was asking the question. But it is such a huge accomplishment, and I think that the fact that you don't take it lightly for because I love what you said here a moment ago. You said, improve everything you touch. Yeah. That's my quote of the day or the month.
Yeah, that's one of our guiding principles here at the club, and it's also one of the rules, Owen's rules, one of the chef's rules in the recipe. So we kind of grabbed all the things that I know or I'm a part of or have seen. So improve everything you touch. So it makes you stop and think. It makes the cook stop and think. Okay, well, look, I can't take this vegetable for granted. I got to respect it, and I want the carrot to taste even more like a carrot, not like a bunch of mustard or whatever else you're putting in the dish. So respecting the product and improving what we already have in our hands. So that's one of our guiding principles.
Don't you think too that probably 99% of the people out there never even think about a carrot?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think,
and that's it's a small detail like we talked about earlier, but they're just so looking at in such a rush to get it out or get the plates out or in a rush to just get stuff done that they miss that detail in things. And that's what makes food extraordinary. When you've been to a place, and now I want to come to your place because I want to eat whatever you cook. But when you've been to a place like that, you see such a huge difference.
Right.
It's not even in the same realm is the only way I can describe it.
Right, it's quite an art actually too, because we're in such a fast-paced world that everything is right here, right now, fast and drive-through and internet and by a click you can have everything you ever needed and so as a chefs we do have to feed a lot of people and we have to feed them quick and we have to make sure the food is amazing, but what I often see in the young people is they don't slow down enough to taste. You got to taste everything, and because the onion today may not be as sweet as the onion tomorrow, or corn's a great example. Silly things like that. But you have to taste everything because everything coming in the door doesn't. Even though it's the same case and same bushel and same whatever, it's going to taste different every day. So that's another one of our guiding principles or rules of the chef. And in the book, the recipe, we have the seven rules of the kitchen that the chef came up with, and everybody lived by, and then Owen turned those over into the chef's rule for living. So that's how we kind of tied that into the book, and it's quite, I'm not sure where you're at in the book, but it's quite an emotional roller coaster, I think. And
it has been, yeah. It's still relatively early in, but it's been because I don't want to give it away. I want people to read it. So
let me just say this for those because we want everybody to go out and buy this book.
Absolutely,
we want them to go out and buy it, and it's the recipe, a story of love, loss, and the ingredients of greatness. So the ingredients of greatness .com is where they can go in order the book.
Yes.
But it's the best way we could put it is that I will tell you that the boy Owen loses his father at a very young age. He's mad at the world. He's mad at God, and he gets himself in a bunch of trouble. And one of his dad's friends sees him getting in trouble, and he reaches out and pulls the boy in. And every chapter is a life lesson. In every chapter, they cook something. Yes. So what's better than that? I mean, it's so we were talking about life through food, and how there's so many different ways you can weave those two things together. You have to be patient in life. You have to taste everything. You have to savor every moment. So there's so many different ways to tie passion and respect and patience in food as in life. So it's really a cool story.
So what comes to mind is in the very beginning of the first chapter, when the kid comes in and he sits down and he has him eat a hot dog.
Yeah.
And I never even remotely thought about
Right.
a hot dog in that way until he's like, well, what does it taste like? Tell me what are the senses that are coming to mind for you, right? Like, what are the flavors that you're tasting?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things where I don't think that we even slow down to taste those flavors. We're inhaling food at this point for many of us in our lives, and we're doing it so subconsciously. We're doing it while we're multitasking. We're dragging kids to school and trying to get to work, and we're on cell phones and everything else, and we're just trying to get food down our throats.
That's true.
And so that to me was an impactful part of it, is that are we taking the time to even pay attention to what we're eating?
Well, that's a great lesson too. That the chef, the scene that you're talking about is the boy his mind is so far from going to work for this guy. He's distraught, he's upset, he's mad that he lost his dad, and yet the chef sits down and he sits next to him and he takes him away from all that. He takes him out of all that anger. He takes him out of all the things that he's mad at the world about, and he takes him out of that for a moment, and he makes him kind of drift off into imagining what the flavors are like, and the snap of the hot dog. Was it smoky? Is it a little bit smoky? Oh, it's a little bit spicy. So he takes him out into another world. And then at the same time, he's teaching him how to taste. And that's something that I don't think necessarily is happening in culinary schools today, is that, you teach them how to cook, but you don't teach people how to taste. Slow down and close your eyes. And like I said, we're in a fast-paced world, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm so busy, and I'll run through, and we have 6 kitchens, as you mentioned there, and run through, and people are saying hello to you or good morning, and you don't hear about it because you're worrying about, okay, I got 3 meetings today, and I got to get this ready and that. And I'm guilty of it, and I make reference to that in the book as well.
Well, my husband is taking me out to dinner tonight at a new Italian restaurant here in town.
As he should.
As he should. And so it's going to be my goal to slow down and really taste the food tonight after talking to you. But there's a couple of other things I wanted to talk about before we run out of time today. Is that you took a team to Afghanistan to put on a show and cook a meal for 5,000 troops in your spare time. Why did you do that, and how did you pull that off?
Well, I don't know how I pulled it off, but it's a little bit of a long story. But quickly, I did it in 2011 and 2013, and it's called Operation Hot. And you can go to my website, chefcharlescarroll.com, and we have some awesome video footage on there. And we're redoing the website, so next month, maybe in October, we're even going to have some better footage. But a buddy of mine asked me to go over a long time ago to Afghanistan and feed the troops for 4th of July, and that fell through. And ever since then, it was in my head. So I put it together, and a buddy of mine, Chief David Longstaff, was in charge of all the food for the military all around the world. And he said, I can help you get that done. And the idea was just to go over there and feed them and do a little cooking thing with them. And it turned into a celebrity team of 20 and a support team and 30,000 pounds of show gear. And we put a Vegas-style show in the middle of a war zone.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was staging, a 30-foot staging, and I'm talking about in Afghanistan. Okay, so
gives me goosepimples.
Yeah, we went to Bagram and the first time, and then we went to Kandahar, the base, the second time. There's 30,000 troops on those bases, and just giving out hugs. I had five tons of gifts and iPods and socks and water guns and Visine and you name it. DVDs, books, Red Bull. Wow. And I had celebrities like Robert Irvine and Lou Holtz and I had a live rock band, and it was the most emotional, most amazing time in my life, and incredibly emotional. And people thank me for doing it, but it was I got to say it was the most amazing time in my life. And we can go on it forever, but. We touched a lot of hearts, and that was my deal. I wanted to touch people's hearts, and I wanted to make sure that they remember that we haven't forgotten them. I have video footage from all 4 past presidents thanking the troops in Operation Hot, and we have video footage from Rudy Giuliani. I went up to see, and celebrities, and we had comedians. And it it was really special, and you can't forget what an amazing job that these troops are doing for us, and what they go through, and how they live, and how they know we'll have a day off, and yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So who did you write this book for?
Well, my first two books, Leadership Lessons and Tasting Success, are in culinary schools all around the United States and parts of the world, actually. And so those are in the hospitality, the hospitality field and culinary schools and business classes. So they're doing very well. I'm really proud to say that they're in so many different schools. But then I wanted to write a fun book that you could see at the airport, and the first two were about team building and how to prepare yourself for school and that kind of thing. So I wanted to do a parable, and so I wrote 8 or 9 chapters, and then I Googled. I saw John on Facebook and thanked him, and next thing you know, and he answered me, just like you talked about the story about Bob.
So funny, huh?
And so then it took off, and so I in everything that I'm doing now, I've done so many things in my life. You're doing so many dinners and fundraisers and everything for everybody else, and then I said I'm going to start slowing down and smell the roses and do things that I really want to do. But everything that I'm doing with this particular book, with the podcast, hopefully next month, and we have, hopefully with a movie and hopefully with a TV show that we're working on, is to not just be entertaining, but to touch people's lives, to touch their hearts and to make a difference. And what I love about the people, the launch team that have read it, is that they say it stays with them. The book stays with them after a while. So that's what we love, that's why we do it. And so that's what's making me jump out of bed right now. So.
Well, you know what? I do have to say I am almost finished with it, and it's such a fantastic book. It's one of those books you can't put down. Like, my eyes were bleeding. I was tired and like wanting to finish it. And those are my favorite kind of books, the books that you cannot put down. And I'm in the process of writing my book, and it's one of those things where you want to spend so much time doing it.
Sure, yeah.
So my book's coming out hopefully in the spring, called 100 Things I Love About You.
Oh, how awesome.
I'll have to send you an advance copy when I do it.
Well, when I get my podcast going, I'll have you on as my guest. How's that?
That would be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
I love the title.
Yeah, it's my story, but it's really cool. So I'm really excited about it, and it's one of those things where things keep coming together, just like you connected with John David Mann, who I just want to give a shout out to both him and Bob, because they are such genuine people. Like,
real
they
pros,
are the real deal,
special people.
And the fact that they respond to their own emails, and they're so giving, and just like you have been as well. I was so excited when I got to have you on here. And so I want to say that the recipe comes out October 17th and is available now for pre-order on Amazon and everywhere else. And we'll have links in the show notes to how to get a hold of you. But for more information on the book and you, our guest today, chefcharlescarroll.com. You guys are running a pre-release special on this book right now, right? Which you can get at that website.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing, too. Wait till you see this stuff. I had John in town. I think John, the only reason why John did this book is so he could eat.
Well,
I think
that's why I would do it. That's why I'm doing the podcast, because I'm counting on the fact that I'm going to meet you someday, and I'm going to get to eat some of your incredible food. Next time you're in Houston, you have a warm meal waiting for you.
But we have with the bonus material. I had John in a couple weeks ago, and we have cooked 8 different recipes from the book. And we videoed them, and we had a great time cooking together over a week's time. And John came in. We did 8 of the recipes, and we related the recipes back to the story and why Owen and the chef chose those, and the struggles they had, and the life comparisons, and so on. So you'll get a chance to meet both me and John in my kitchen and cooking away and have a lot of fun. And then we also have a kind of a fireside chat about all the behind the stories, because there is a lot of things in there in the book about my life. So. So that's all video footage that is exclusive for the anybody who pre-orders the book before October 17th.
Awesome. Well, you know what? This has been such a pleasure. I know you're such a busy man, and I just want to tell everyone you're actually in a working office. So
I am.
he's got chefs coming in and out, and all kinds of people going on. And I actually love that because I mean that's real life, right?
I was hoping you didn't hear that, but yeah, yeah.
No, I'm actually enjoying it. I know you have someone working behind you, and I can see the chefs in the mirrors, and I'm actually most entertained by this one on video today. So I'm glad we got to do it on video.
I appreciate that. That's
Thank
Jessica
you.
back there. Jessica, say hello. Way over
Hi,
here.
Jessica.
Yeah, she's saying
nice
hi.
to meet you. So thank you again. It was such an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show today, and I can't wait for the book to be released. We'll be promoting it big time over here at Real Estate Real World.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and thank you for having me on, and come see us in Houston.
I'm going to. It's going to be that's on my bucket list now. I can't
Super.
wait. Thank you
Super.
so much for joining us today, and thank you everybody for listening in on the Real Estate Real World. You can check us out on iTunes, on YouTube, and at realestaterealworld.com. Thanks again. Go out and make it an incredible day. And I love this quote, improve everything you touch.
That's right.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Real World, where we talk with masters and leaders in real estate and beyond on how we can raise the bar in our industry. Please subscribe over on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to give us a review. Your reviews encourage us and help others find our podcast. For show notes and hot topics on what's going on right now in our real estate industry, hop on over to www.realestaterealworld.com and add your name to our email. Thanks again for listening. And go out there. Be a part of the elite masterclass in raising the bar on the real estate industry.